But let's move on now to the bad point. It's already, by the way, that's how 2022's changed. The fucking Astralis point was in the good point. Like, for the last, spoiler, for the last year or so, Stabby, they've been permanently subdued within the ugly and bad sections. Like, a good one for them was just to get to ugly instead of just straight up bad. So, what about bad then? What is your bad point for this one, Snappy?
I mean, like, you just saw, like, this is obviously kind of an old point in a sense.
It's a great one, though. I'm looking forward to this. Let's do it.
It was like the HLTV top 20 obviously came out, and there was a lot of emphasis on these orbs. And I actually said it to Maui at there, but like, because there's a lot of talk about the orb being overpowered, especially on HLTV forums. And I just wanted to kind of give my take on it, because I definitely don't think the orb is overpowered. I think that's part about the orb is overrated, because when you actually look at the orb, it costs 4,750. If you add a deagle to that, that's 2 AKs. So obviously, when you put that much resources into a play, you also expect a higher output, right? It's kind of like, I don't know, like, I'm not a big basketball expert, but if you shoot like 20 times and make 7 shots, and then you have another player who shoots 14 times and makes 7 shots, that's kind of how I feel like it is, because the orb is getting the exact same value in terms of HLTV stats as a rifle kill.
Yes.
And in a lot of ways, that's just very wrong, because if you put, like, there are certain things you need to kind of consider when you actually look at it. Like, way orbers should be judged, they should be judged against other orbers, like what's the average, and then that should be put up. And also, like, so far we still haven't been able to integrate economy. Like, if you take a guy down with equipment of 8,000 with a deagle for 700, that means a lot more than just, I don't know, a AK trading a M4, which is kind of equal in the value, right? So the narrative that the orb is overrated, it's actually not. I would actually, like, to a certain degree, I would actually say it's a little bit underwhelming, in the sense that you put double the resources into getting it.
Yes.
And it's not double the firepower of an AK or an M4. So, yeah, I think it's just a bad take that the orb is overrated. I think the stats around the orb is overrated.
I had a similar idea, that I kind of just think that the way we should judge players should be a little bit more role oriented. Because, for example, you're not going to ever get a real support player in the top 20, even though, you know,
unless you do like a zip, you win everything basically. Yeah, you have to win every single title basically to do it. You're right.
Yeah, essentially that. And so, like, Shush, for example, I don't know if he's going to reach top 20 this year, but damn, does he deserve it in terms of the role that he plays on his team, in my eyes. So I'll say that, like, the money angle is really interesting, because I think actually, so it would be cool if people paid more attention to what Leadify was doing with their rating. So they basically tried making this other type of rating to combat HLTV that does take into economy. It does take into the fact that if a person gets a kill on an anti-eco round, it's not really worth a lot in terms of their stats. But if they die, then it kind of works with round win percentages, and it works with basically economy helps like infer what the round win percentage is. So essentially, if you're on an anti-eco, your team's already has like a 92% chance of winning. So every kill you get is like essentially worth 2% in their rating. Right. Whereas HLTV, all of those kills are worth the same amount. So people that
identical, yeah.
So people that are getting those deagle kills onto ops are going to be rewarded a lot by Leadify's rating, whereas HLTV, every single kill is worth the same value. And I just think that, like, that's kind of a role thing, and it's kind of a gun, like, who's good at pistols, for example. There's different ways that you could game these sort of systems. Like, no rating system is ever going to be perfect.
It's never going to be perfect. Never. But
yeah,
I do think it's
go on.
I do think a good way, like, you should, like, as I said, like, you can definitely compare orbers to orbers. Like, I don't think like, you should see, like, okay, let's just take a CT site for an example. I would guess, like, the entry, like 0.16% of the round or something like that, an orber will get an entry. Then an orber shouldn't be compared to a rifler who might have 0.09. And that's what we are doing right now, and that's why, like, obviously that impacts the impact rating, that impacts pretty much like round win shares, like. There's just so many flaws in the way that we view it, and I think that it leads to us getting the wrong narrative that the orb is overrated at the end.
Put it this way, this is why I love that you brought this topic up, because I've always personally thought, like you said at the end, the AWP, if anything, it's either underrated or it's actually slightly underpowered even. Because remember, there's a couple of factors everyone always forgets. One, the kill reward is fucking garbage on the gun. So the gun itself never pays for itself raw economy. Whereas like anyone fan going, but the others don't, they do. Like you don't think about an SMG, you moron. Like you barely need any kills. It just pays for itself immediately. And then the other thing, which is also why, by the way, as well, not only is it really expensive, it's one of the only guns, by the way, where just that gun alone makes you willingly give the opponent a round. Like, if you save on Inferno with rifles, you do it because you had 3. If you might save just 1 AWP, and sometimes there's even scenarios, extreme ones, where you might even save literally in a 1v1 where the health is just too low. Like, so essentially, the AWP is so important in terms of what people's actual actions in the game. They give the opponent fucking rounds, the thing that wins you the game, in exchange for the AWP. So how it can be, like, in that sense, like, fucking anyone can use it. It isn't. It's that mega important. Yep. And then on the rating one, I think a key point there is this. This is why we have got to stop this thing of like stats is what decides where you are on those lists. The reason stats can't do that, the player who literally exposes that list is good old fucking Jim from Virtus Pro. The idea he was the 10th best player into it, get the fuck out my face. Like, mate, there's no way, because his stats are the most empty calories of all time. Like, he's getting AWP kills, remember, where they're not even impacting the round. He's doing like, I get 2 exit kills with the AWP and then I save the AWP, right? Why would that be better than like Nico getting 1 entry kill that's amazing and dying? It isn't. It doesn't make any sense. Your system can't account for that. Obviously, it pumps the KST up, score up like a motherfucker as well. And then also, this is why, because the player that showed me that people are whack at articulating arguments, Mouse Snake, was Nico. Because, we had all these people making these cases like, but Nico uses a rifle, so doesn't that mean he's better than Simple? It's like, go on. You've almost got a point there, but you haven't actually made a point yet. You've just drawn a correlation like, he uses a rifle. I think a rifle is easier. Simple. But it's like, the real point is this. The joke is, if you actually tried to look at the value of kills, there's the argument you make for Nico. What you say is, if he's an entry and he's getting loads of entry, and a rifler who's doing loads of entry work and succeeding loads, those kills probably are worth more than, like, the middle kill from Simple or Ziwu that they don't win around. Like, that's where you attack it. So I agree, this whole topic's right in my wheelhouse, because essentially what it asks is, don't just look at the number. Secondly, also, can we please start considering what roles people play? Because I agree, if you follow any professional sport, like, I'll use football since Snappy's here, and obviously he's not like an American sports guy. It would be ridiculous if I made a list of, like, greatest football players ever, and then, like, Zidane isn't on the list because we're going by goals scored. So, like, he was actually a fairly conservative goal scorer because he was a midfielder, wasn't he? But he's obviously one of, like, the greatest players to ever play the game. But by this logic, the Hitchell TV logic would be, I just take some guy who scored 20 goals in the Premier League. There we go. He's better than Zidane because Zidane would score, like, 7 goals. Like, we can't view the game this way, guys. We've got to have some eye test.
But also, like, at the end of the day, the AWP should be the strongest weapon.
For sure.
Like it is. Because it costs the most.
Yes.
Because why would you buy it if it weren't stronger?
Yes, agreed.
Because it costs 2,000 more than an AK. And that's the kind of, well, I guess that's the end of it.
The joke goes like this, mate. I always used to say this to people, because there's even a famous video on my channel if people want to go now, where I was on one of those snipe things, and then, like, they all try and gang up on me, and it was like fucking Pimp, Lurpis, Semler. They all try to argue me with the AWP's the easiest gun, and it's overpowered. I wreck them all, mate, don't worry. I can have all the arguments. But I'll just say this. This is one of the best arguments you can give people that shows that the AWP can't be overpowered. If it was overpowered, you'd have 2 or 3 of them, right? Do you know why you don't have 2 or 3 of them? Because the second you get more than 1 AWP, all the negatives get amplified massively, and you don't even get that much more out of it. Yet logically, all the plebs think, it's just 1 hit, 1 kill. Then you'd have 3 AWPs on CT side. It'd be impossible to win, wouldn't it? But we all know the cost of it, the fucking little reward you get, that you have to save the gun. Like, all those, every AWP you add, the negatives, like, scale, and the positives don't even go up with it. Yeah, so as a result, like, you do need an AWP. That's true. But it's not like, it isn't definitely always the best player in terms of actual on the server, though.
Nah, but also it's role dependent. Like, if you have 1 AWP, you can let him come in 3rd, 4th guy. Like, he can throw the smoke and the flash. He can come in, he can get the after plant, right? You can't have 3 AWPers running into a site, because at the end of the day, the major weakness about an AWP is you can't take space with it. You're not a space taker. As soon as you have an AWP, you're very static to a certain degree. Obviously, there are AWPers like Simple and Cyber who can literally just run around. However, they are also fairly static, and that's why you'll see them play AK on half of the T sites, half of the time. They don't even play the AWP. Yes. Because there's so many, like, the economy, like, there's certain maps where you're just at a disadvantage in those close quarter fights, right?
This video was kindly supported by Ahmed Hadjou, Iskander, Matt Pugnatio Rajcula, Travis Goff, Adam Ochs, Animosity, Butt Pounder 420, Hades, Jensen Goh, Joseph Ginsburg, Kovacevicd, Tobias Bernasconi, Toucan, William Peyton Lacy, Zoomba, Zyrathenia, and a special thank you goes out to Jerky's Minion as always. Do you want to suggest a topic or a guest for some of my content? Want to ask me a question in my monthly video AMA? Do you want teasers? Find out who the guests are going to be on my shows. Maybe you want to be part of one of those lengthy but in-depth and interesting discussions about esports with yours truly. Well, if so, put your money where your mouth is and join the Skrilluminati today via the Patreon link in the description box below.